Hello, my name is Maran Jones. I home educated our children for 21 years, and we're here today to talk about the how and the why you would want to home educate your children in the arts. So, I'm joined today by Esther Jones.
Hello, I'm Esther Jones. I currently hold a bachelor's in music from McDaniel College, and I teach music. So having gone through the experience myself of being educated in the arts, as art, music, theater, and then coming out on the other side and being a teacher, I'm really excited to talk to everybody today about why this is so important and how to get into it.
Thank you, Esther. For me, the reason for teaching art and music to our children was to glorify God and to find beauty in God's world, to teach them discipline.
Yes, so that's really interesting. We see in the Bible that it says you want to make a joyful shout with the harp. You want to be talking about glorifying God using the harp, using the sound of the drum. There was a man in, I think it's Numbers, who was called
Bezalel. He was a very important person for the temple. He made all the curtains. He did all the fancy design for the bowls and the lavers and the spoons, worked in gold and all sorts of craftsmanship.
So he used his artistic skills to be able to glorify God in the building of not the temple at that point, but the tabernacle. And then later on, they did build the temple and use their skills in that way under the direction of King Solomon. So we can see right from the Bible that using art is a great way to feel more connected to the Bible and glorify God. We can use our music to sing his praises.
And the Holy Spirit was the one that filled him to be able to do all manner of craft activities. So when we do things to the glory of God, we are asking God through his Holy Spirit to help us to get to a level where it is complete.
And of course, the spiritual aspect is something that's very important to educating your children in the arts. But we also want to look at some of the practical day-to-day aspects. What kind of applications are useful for children of all ages, and how will it prepare them for life beyond their school years? We can look at how it can teach discipline, dedication, and perseverance. So you might have a child who doesn't necessarily, they love music, but they're not really wanting to get into a regimen. So there are some ways that you can overcome that.
Well, perseverance is one of the ways in which you will try and get your child to feel that they cannot give up on music or art. So for example, if they're struggling in an area, you try and find out from them why they're struggling. It may be the need to change the teacher and not necessarily drop music or art. And changing your teacher that is suitable for them, they will blossom on that teacher. Or even they might want to change the instrument they're playing, so they might not be comfortable with the piano, but they might like the guitar. Or they would like a different kind of piano playing, the jazz piano playing, instead of the classical style. And you work through these difficulties they have to get them to the point where they continue in the arts and music and literature and whatever area they have.
Right, and having discipline, dedication, perseverance are all very important skills in life. So if we think about, some people are born with natural talent, and that is amazing, but a lot of people really have to work to get to the level that they have achieved. And in a small sense, we can work on our music and practice every day, get better at it. at our art. Practice every day. If you're not good at something, the way to get better is to practice. You set a goal and you go after it, and that is something that is a very important skill to have as a young child. You learn how to do that for your school. When you get into college, that can be very helpful to get you into a regimen to help you pass your classes. And then when you're in the workforce, what kind of goals are you going to go after to help build your career? If you decide to build a family, what kind of dedication and practice can you take from those years of studying the arts and apply to your own life? Music and art and theater are also great for problem solving. There are times where, and this can be on the child's part or the mom's part, where things come up that can be an issue. There's a wonderful little anecdote in the story, the book, not a story, it's a story of our life, the 4 Jewels in My Crown, that talks about what happened when a performance was coming up and there weren't the right clothes.
Well, we learned how to make sure we have gather all of our clothing in advance, but sometimes we made a little blunder because people grew rather quickly in our household, so we would try to get all the t-shirts and the shirts and the cufflinks and this and that already. But there are times where we thought we had everything, and when we went to put the clothes on, they were just short. The trousers didn't fit, and the blouse did not fit, and the shirts did not fit, and so you had a little running up and down to do. But we got there, you know.
Another great thing that you can learn from the arts, which is a great reason to get your kids involved in them, is social skills. A lot of people have a concern that if your child is homeschooled, that they're not going to be socializing with other kids, and being involved in the arts is a great way to get them out there and socializing. So with music, you can have solo performances, but then you have the recitals where you get to see the other kids. You have bands, personal bands that can come together, little rock bands and things like that, or bands that are put together like a wind band or an orchestra, where you're playing with other children and you get to see each other and have that social aspect. All the while you're learning all these important skills. If you think about theater, that's another thing where everybody learns how to work together. You could be on stage being an actor, you could be a stagehand, you could be part of the lighting crew, but you all learn to work together as a team. And again, you build those friendships, learn those social skills that are very important to navigate your way through life.
One of the things about the social skill is that you actually get involved in the community. You go to the senior center homes and play for them, or you go to family and friends and put on private recitals for them. When people come and visit you, you put on recital for them. So it's a way of performing formally and informally, in a way whereby you have that social gathering. You gather around poetry, and performances are played in a way whereby someone is reciting a poem and the recorder is being played in the background, or the piano is being played in the background. So this way you are actually meeting people, being able to play in a public forum. You get rid of some of those nervous tensions in such a wonderful social setting, and afterwards you get to talk to people and express yourself to people, and they tell you, positive things. This was really great, and you build up a sense of confidence that you can, I can do this, I can do that. Yes, next time when you come together to play again, you get better at it, because others were pleased with that and it brought happiness to them, and you want to be able to continue to bring happiness to others through music and art.
Right, and that touches upon a very important subject, which is this idea of having self-esteem, self-worth. Because we know, as we take things from a biblical approach, that we are made in the image of God. So as human beings, we have inherent worth because we were made in God's image, and that's very important. But a lot of times we see things around us, we see the news, we see people who might be better than us at something. We have people in our lives who can be negative and say things that make us feel bad. And working on music, working on art, working on theater can help to build up that sense of self-esteem and that confidence that can really, really help as we navigate through life, knowing that we don't have to be afraid or hide ourselves away in the corner. So in a small sense, like the performance anxiety, that can help us get over that. But then being able to go out there and have those social skills and talk to people and make connections and just have that self-esteem, that sense of confidence, that sense of self-worth, knowing that your art, even if you just keep it for yourself, it's something beautiful that you created that can be out there for yourself or for other people. That is a piece of art that has value, that has merit, because you have value and you have merit.
And just like you are caring for yourself and you feel the sense of confidence in you, you also have you take this a little further. You take care of your instruments, and not just your physical flute and piano, you tune it up, you clean your flute, but your voice is also an instrument. So on days where it is really cold, you will probably avoid going outside, or if you do go outside, you will wrap up your neck very carefully and try not to do too much speaking, because that voice is your instrument you always have. So you take good care of yourself. You gain patience in all of this as well.
Right, and that idea of responsibility is also something that is so, so important, because as mentioned, you have your voice with you. You're born with your voice. Then you have these instruments, and some of them can be very inexpensive, such as recorders. You can get cheap percussion instruments, but then you can have very expensive things. A lot of kids have flutes. You can have a piano installed in your home. You have trombones, tuba, bass drum. All these things can be very expensive and very costly to replace. So you learn to take good care of them, which again is good training for other things in life, whether you continue to be a musician, whether you're an artist and you have sketchbooks that you want to preserve, you have your art supplies that you want to keep handy, you have your costumes for your play, your lighting equipment. Sometimes these things that we use in the arts belong to other people. So it's our responsibility to be good stewards. We're learning good stewardship. And that is something that can happen after school, when you have a job, when you are the manager of something. You have a responsibility and you learn how to take care of both your own equipment and other people's things, whether that's jobs that they have delegated to you or actual pieces of equipment that you are making sure is safeguarded so that everything can work together and have a positive outcome. Everyone can be successful. So that idea of responsibility is very, very important because it can be applied in so many different areas of life.
It's also very good because when you educate your children in the arts, you find that you come across various subjects like English or French or Italian, German, because the music may be written in Italian and German and French, and you want to sing it and you want to get the expression of what you are singing, so you will understand the language, what they meant, so you bring it out. And in the same thing in English too, you want to be able to bring that out. So it helps you to look at different languages. So that means you're looking at different cultures as well, and the time period, and even Latin. Certain things were sung in Latin as well. Whether it was a complicated song or a very simple jingle in those days, and the different periods. The history is brought out in it as well, the medieval times and the Renaissance and classical era, all these different things. You will find that as you study the art and music, you come across a rich heritage, and even in African music, the period of it, the instrument that was made that is still being used in today's culture. So you take yourself back into time, and you are actually in the present as well. So this also then helps you to have this, your mind is being renewed in different ways, because then you begin to retain things in your mind, you're memorizing things in your mind. That's the beauty of the whole situation with the arts and the music. So you will find people in other areas struggling to comprehend various languages, or even they will hate it. But if they have really learned to love music and understood music, they will see how it fits into all of life, and not to just take it out of its context and begin to say, oh, I don't want to study French today, I don't want to study Spanish today, I don't want to study Italian today. But rather, if that Italian is linked with your music, it becomes a joy of studying it, and we want to know more about it and how to study it to further the subject that you have been given a real love for.
Right, this idea of cross-disciplinary studies is super, super interesting for learning the arts. And in fact, if we take Western history from about the 1400s onwards, we find that music and art and a little bit theater are inextricably intertwined, and actually very, very closely intertwined with religion as well. It's actually, if we go back a little bit further to the Reformation, we find some very interesting things happening with the Catholic Church's stance on music, and how the Reformers had a different view on how music, as we spoke about in the beginning, should be used to honor and glorify God. And that was something that was a topic of very hot debate during those days. And then as we go further, we have these periods that we have the medieval period, which covers a very long time in history. We have the Renaissance, the Reformation, then the Renaissance. We have the Baroque, the Classical era, the Impressionistic era, the Modern era, and then we have the era that we're living in now, which I guess is postmodern. And if we look at all these different eras, the music and art are always intertwined, always. And again, like I said, we can see how some of the religion is intertwined with that, the expression of a particular song or hymn, and then how people created art to go along with that. So history is something that you can't take out of music, and music and art should always be taught, in my opinion, with that history behind them, because they don't exist in a vacuum. They mean something. If we look at the statue of David from Michelangelo, he created someone that he thought was the epitome of human perfection and showed it through the golden ratio. And you can see how the mathematics and science comes into art. But then we have different types of theater that they would have plays, because back in certain times of history, people were forbidden from reading, well, not forbidden, but they were prevented from reading the Bible for themselves. So the way that they learned about these were these plays. And then later on we have oratorios, which were musical plays where people learned about religion. So all of these things are very intertwined. We also have, as was mentioned, the idea of language that can be learned again through the music and art and plays with the history. And then with the idea of English, it's very practical. You could have concert reports. So you take your child to watch a play or learn about a piece of art and listen to a performance, and they then write what they learned about it. So they can write by hand or on the computer, maybe use a voice dictation type of software. and are able to write essays, write personal recollections, and improve their writing skills through the use of the arts, as well as learning how to prep for exams. So if you're a musician, if you're an artist, there might be things that you have to memorize that you need to be able to remember, whether it's playing something or reciting facts. If you're in a play, it's very important to memorize something all the way through from beginning to end. And so this idea of memorization through the arts is something that can help in all areas of schooling.
Well, if a mom is listening out there who says, well, my children are just very young. I only have 4 years old and 2 years old and 3 years old and maybe up to 6. These things might be a little bit too hard for me. One thing I will say is this. In our early stages, we took the children to museums with their little art pads, and they were to take a look at the artwork and then just sort of copy whatever they enjoyed. So they'll find a picture that they really like, and they will spend some time copying that. So you do this regularly, and they begin to enjoy that. It goes also to a play or a concert, or we take them to the free brown bag lunches concerts, or to see, maybe the Nutcracker or something like that. And I remember through that they would find the joy of playing the recorder, the sound the recorder would make. So it's never too early to lay those foundation with them in a fun, loving way, that as you continue, they then grow into it. So that same child that looks at that Michelangelo painting and sketch what they see in a childlike way, you keep that picture and you go back again in 5 years time and see the improvement of the drawing, and you go back in 10 years time until they're an artist and they are actually copying it exact. So all of these things are not all born in one day. It's over a period of years, and persevering and not giving up and doing it in such a way it is fun loving. Before they realize it, they have reached a state of mastery.
Right, and that that idea that you can start at any age is something that's so important, because children need to be able to express themselves, and before they speak, they can use music, art, dance as a way to express themselves. Little kids love to dance. Also, it can help them with their motor skills. So dancing is a great way to learn the big motor skills. And then with music and art, you learn those fine motor skills. Writing is a type of art. If you can write, you can draw. So that self-expression is very, very healthy. It gets any kind of emotions and feelings out there so that they don't have to contain it all within themselves. Because as we grow and go through different stages of life, different things happen. Music, art, dance, theater can be great outlets, great ways to help that expression come through. We have had friends we knew in the past that really struggled with maybe feelings of depression, and music and art and dance and theater were ways for them to start smiling again, to feel that, again, going back to this idea of self-worth, they had something to offer, and just a way to get any thoughts, negative feelings out of themselves and onto paper, into a piece of music, into the air. If you're doing dance, it just kind of flows through your body. And again, we can do all these things for the honor and glory of God, because sometimes there are things that we don't know how to deal with. And so when we can pray about them, this can be the answer for how to deal with things that we have inside of us. And so again, this can happen all throughout life. If there's been many stories of people who, as they were older, turned to music and art. And if you build that foundation young, then your children know they always have something tangible they can come back to when they're struggling, or if they just love to spread joy and creativity and positivity in the world, they know what kind of medium they can use to do that.
I think what people make mistakes on, adults as well, is especially in the school system, is that whenever there is a budget cut, the first thing they do is to cut the arts, to cut the music, to cut the fine arts, the crafts, in all sorts of ways. They do not realize that they are cutting away a very, very essential foundation to the creativity of the mind. And in other parts of the world, when they want, they do have the money, but when they want to stifle the society, they actually will cut those things, because they know that the arts is where the true creativity comes out, and brilliancies of bringing together the completion of the whole man. And as we were learning about the dance, it's very beautiful situation we learn in the scripture that David, out of thanksgiving, danced before the Lord, and it is a wonderful expression to release all sorts of toxin and energy you have in you, and giving God glory for what he has done for you. So those are beautiful things that we need to have. I would love to have as many parents as possible do this. And I remember when I was in college, I said to my music teacher, I can't sing. She said, really? I said, yeah, I can't sing. She said, but you can talk, can't you? I said, yeah. She said, well, it's just a matter of finding your voice. And that was when she began to help me with the different sound. And I realized now that I was an alto. I could not sing a soprano, neither was I a tenor or a bass. But if I were to find my voice, and I would blossom in it, and she was very great. She helped me to find my voice. And so that's the beautiful thing about music. You find your area. And in art, the same thing again. I will say, I can't draw, but when it comes to my area, everybody can write. Yes, that is the same form of lines and curves that you put together to make the shapes, and you take it further. As you begin to grow in your writing, your art will increase. But if you just stop at a certain level, it will stop. So we need to detox our mind and see the arts, music, dance, theater, all of these things are part of developing the whole man, because all the subjects can be found within it.
And we might be thinking, as a new parent homeschooling, if this is your first time doing it, or if you've just been doing it a couple years and you're trying to figure out, how do I get my kids into this? I'm not talented. I can't draw. That sounds like me. I can't draw. I can't do art. I don't have a flexible bone in my body. I can't do dance. I can write emails, but maybe I can't do creative writing or poetry or anything like that. How do I get into this? Well, that's the beautiful thing about homeschooling. As a homeschool mom, you can learn with your kids. So you might not be the next great Picasso or Michelangelo or Beyonce or any one of the famous authors that are out there, but you can also learn with your children and have joy and feel satisfied in creating art and blessing the world with the gifts that you might discover you never even had. And so it can be very helpful to start by going to professional source. That can be textbooks. There are books out there that you can use, some very good ones on art.
I found a wonderful book, Drawing on the Right-Hand Side of the Brain. And it was quite an expensive book, but I found it in the library, and I took that book out of the library for almost 1 year until I got my own copy. And I used that book because I know I used that book in college and it was really good. So I went and I got that book and I worked on it to help me teach my children in a way that they improve tremendously. And then I found another book, Drawing with Children, and then I was able to get some professional teachers who took it up to another level. So you work with your children according to their age, abilities, and where they are at in their learning curve.
And outside of textbooks, you also have things like podcasts that you can listen to, learn things. You can put it on when you're cleaning, driving with your kids, any kind of chores where if you have a moment to yourself and you can listen in the other ear, you can listen to podcasts and learn this type of thing. Then also, YouTube is a great resource. A lot of times, personally, when I've been learning things myself, I'll go on YouTube and figure it out. And so you just type in, how do I, as a homeschool mom, into YouTube and find these great ideas that you can do with your kids as far as art and music and theater and all that is concerned. And then beyond that, you find professional people to help you out. If your school allows it and is willing to work with you, you can get your kids enrolled in some of the music and art programs they have there, such as band, orchestra, theater, anything like that that you can get them into. You can work with the schools. There are summer camps that you can do. I know near us, we had the Performing Arts Center that every summer would put on plays that the children could be part of. There are colleges that will let parents and children come to special events and learn about the types of art that they have there. And then, of course, you have your private teachers. And sometimes these teachers will do workshops, and then you can go on and do things separately with them afterward. So you have private teachers for art, you have private teachers for music, you have private teachers for dance, and there's usually little academies of dance. And so you can find these professionals that can help your children rise to the next level and can help you too. A lot of people will teach both children and adults. Myself as a music teacher, I have some students where I've done that. We teach the parent and the child, so both are learning together and are both able to have the joy of accomplishing such a fun activity.
Some other ways you can find about free programs in your homeschooling community. Check out your local libraries. They have a wealth of resources there. Go to the email list that might be the homeschool bulletin, different homeschooling groups, and go on the internet and search homeschooling days in my area, Facebook homeschooling groups, Twitter, podcasts, etc. But there are a lot of information out there for homeschooling activities, and most of the times they're free. So you might even go and check out museums. Say you want to go to the cave, or you want to go to a science museum or history museum. Just go and find those places, put in homeschooling days, and a whole list of things will come out. So the resources are vast. Don't feel you're stuck and you're in the home, you can't get out with these children. There are so many things you can go to. Don't also feel like it is so expensive that I can't do it. There are so many situations that are free for you to go to. Free Arts in Lancaster, they do the sort of free learning situation with the Fulton Opera House. You go there and you learn the music, and you can even sit next to a musician and read the music. It's all free because it's all based on educational grant that they have for that. So take advantage of all those free art programs out there. Universities, music departments are another wonderful way you can go and see the students, the senior students art performances, or the closing, the seniors recitals, and their brown bag lunches, and they're all free. And they love for you to come and visit their programs because the students have worked so hard to be very professional, and normally they have good food as well for you to go to. So make sure your children are sort of hungry and you guys can stay afterwards and eat and meet the artists. It is such a wonderful time. We took advantage of so many free events in the music, in the arts, theater, and dance.
So there are so many good reasons to get your child into art, whatever kind of art it is, whether it's music, whether it's art, whether it's dance, writing, poetry, whatever kind of self-expression that your child is interested in. And they might flip from subject to subject and until they're trying to find what they really, really love, and they might go off and do sports, but they still learn something and get something of value out of it. And as we just mentioned, there are so many different ways to get your kids involved that you don't have to feel overwhelmed. You can start with free events and then go to professionals and all these different things that you can do to get your kids involved in the arts.
And thank you very much for this time of the arts, music, dance performances. There are so many things you can do. You can look at the arts from a historical point of view, look at the instruments from ancient time, study them. Just literally enjoy your children and don't give up based on the economic situation out there, thinking I can't get my children into arts and music because it might be too expensive. There are also instruments you can hire. You can go to the music shops and you can hire those instruments as well. And if you have any trouble, get in touch with the Eagle Mom Squad and they will give you all the information you need to make your homeschool journey a beautiful flight. Thank you very much.